What's going on, everybody? As you can see, we're in the middle of the body repair after my incident at last race. This video is going to be about body work. If you own a race car, you're into racing, you're starting to race, at some point in time you're going to have to do some sort of body work to your car. So as you can see, the rocker panel took a good hit here. I think because the jacking lug is part of it. See how it kind of missed this section? And then all this is smushed in. It should be easy enough because this is just one layer of sheet metal. It's not that thick right here. We'll get the exhaust out of the way and kind of get to it. And in case anybody's wondering, I got my start in body work when I was, 17 or so, and I did it for about 7-8 years. So even though I did it for that long of a period, I don't do it that much anymore, except like kind of on my own car, or if I'm like metal working something, like quarter panels to fit bigger wheels or something. I did do a little bit of body work on the GT350. I'll put a tag of that video up here, but that was kind of much lighter body work. This is going to be a little bit heavier, we'll call it. Alright, so a few things you're going to need. I haven't opened this box in I don't know how long. This company is called Mo Clamp Tack and Pull with pull plates. So you can see it comes with these steel tabs that have a little bead rolled into the end here, and it comes with this clamp that you can see has the same shape in it. So what you do is you take whatever size clamp you need. You can see how there's like long ones, short ones, real small one. I put a hole in that one. You weld it to whatever you got to do. Slide the clamp over it while it's welded, and then it gives you a nice place to like pull the metal back to where it needs to be. That's where this red bar comes in. I believe this thing is called a leverage bar. I honestly forget. I'll see if I can find this stuff or something very similar to it on Amazon and put a link to anything in the description below. But what you do is you take this pad, put it up on, fortunately I have a cage, and then the chain goes down to it, and you kind of like use it to like leverage and yank the metal out. So again, being thin sheet metal, should be capable to do it with this leverage bar. Some other like random things, you can see I kind of have some like washers welded to bolts. If I ever had to pull something that had like a bolt hole, you could like screw it in to a bolt hole, say this hinge needed to come out, and then yank it that way or something. So regular clamps. But yeah, this is, man, trip down memory lane. I haven't used these clamps in, let's see, I'm 35, over 10 years probably. Been a while. So anyways, that was a quick little rundown. Let's kind of get to it. I'll probably like time lapse through it, and you'll get the gist. Alright, so we got the first tab welded. I'm going to start in the middle because that's kind of like the softer metal, I guess. A lot of strength is on this edge right here, so if I get the middle out with some tension on it, I can kind of use a hammer on this top edge and maybe underneath a little bit to kind of pull it out. I'll put the camera down still for a second so you can see. But so here's the leverage bar, and you can see how when I pull up on it, I got all this leverage down here to kind of help get me some pulling force on this. Now there's a couple options. You could use a slide hammer. I have one of them. Aside from a slide hammer, say if you were doing this outside, if you had so from here, say you had like a tree or a post cemented in the ground or something, you can even pull like a truck hitch next to it or something, and you can use a come along to, you can use one of these guys to kind of, ratchet it, and, hold tension on it while you metal work it and stuff. So come along, slide hammer, leverage bar, you got all sorts of options. Alright, so I just cut the last of the tabs off. You can see under time lapse I kind of did like a little on the edge, a little on that crease, a little underneath, a little in the middle, and you just kind of work it all out together. The issue I'm up against now, from the top you can see like we're pretty straight. We had like a straight edge. Let's see. So you can see it's hitting a little bit of the weld. So if we're like touching there, it's rocking on that weld. You can see how we're getting there. It's pretty close. The issue I'm up against now is if you look from here, it still kind of looks okay. This can still be kind of massaged out, but when you go under further, it's kind of all caved in down here, and I don't really have the ability to pull this down. But at this point, you got to realize this thing's a race car, and the exhaust runs right along the side of the car right there, like you saw in the opening. How crazy do you want to get with it? I think I'm pretty much gonna like smooth out some of those welds, use what's called like a Bondo hair. It's like Bondo with like fiberglass strands in it. It's kind of used for like more buildup than like real fine body work, but that should be fine for that. Now I just got to do what I just did on that little bit from there all the way to there. I tried taking a quick little clip because you can see from this one tab right here how much this all came out. Would have made a cool little clip in the video, but I forgot to hit the record button. But it's kind of funny, sometimes like a big dent from here all the way to here sometimes is almost easier to pull out because you got like more metal that's just like bent in, rather than like something on this front where it was a smaller area but it had a much harder like crease in it. So, you know, sometimes doing larger areas of body work almost a little bit easier than like small little tight areas. But yeah, so one pull got me out this much. If you go from the top view, you can kind of see it was way in. It probably came out at least a ½ inch. So do another one here, another one there. This whole little back section shouldn't take much longer than that front little dent I just did. Alright, so I'm going to start pulling. Oh yeah, she's coming out good. But you can see how I'm pulling pretty good, but not crazy hard, how much all of that's moving out. So what I was hammering was this edge right here, because when this got hit, all this metal kind of went in and either squished like in or down. So with tension coming out this way, hitting right here kind of helps like relieve the metal back up and out that way. Alright, so the last dusty old relic I had to bust out is my old stud gun, which uses these little, you know, copper rivets that you put in the end. And when you press it down and it makes contact on bare metal, it just kind of like tack welds it to it. You put this little stud puller on it and, you know, work out your sheet metal. There you go. So there's your stud. This just screws on. Alright, so it came out a little bit. We're just going to do a whole bunch of them. So that's about as close as you can get it with this one. Whoops. That'll happen. That was an old one. So we're getting this out a little bit. So you can see it just takes a little bit of time, but we'll clean all this up to bare metal, try and get some of it out. Then yeah, bodywork or Bondo. Alright, so we're going to do a little bit of a upwards pull on this one, because this whole edge, when it got hit, you can see how we have a little gap here, and then it kind of comes down. It doesn't really need to come out, it needs to go up right now. Ugh. about that one. Now if we look down along what kind of will be our, body line, looks good enough. Alright, so I sanded, any of the paint around it, roughed it up, wiped it down, so we're ready for the fiberglass. The stuff I'm going to use for the first layer or two is this Bondo glass. It's a fresh can, so you can see like the resin kind of separates from the actual fiberglass Bondo. So basically it's like chopped strands of fiberglass mixed in with Bondo. Think of it like that. So this will be our first one. Here's the hardener. Make sure you give it a couple squeezes, kind of like rolled around a little bit, because sometimes when you first use these, they separate in here and it's just like a liquid shooting out. Alright, so we're going to stir it around to remix in that resin that kind of separated from it. Alright, we're going to scoop out and try and do as much as we can handle. The shop's a little bit warm today, and this stuff sets up pretty quick. We'll try that on the first mix. The hardener, usually just like a stripe across it is enough, like that. And you want to make sure you mix it enough where it's all one universal color, so you can still see how there's kind of stripes where the red hardener isn't mixed in with the green, so I got to keep going. Alright, so we're looking good. I gotta be quick with this. Alright, so first bit, see how far it gets me. Alright, so first layer there. It's okay. Let's kind of do whatever we can with the rest back here. Just a little bit easier to work into the way you're going than away from it. We'll do the deep bits. Kind of just load up some of the deep spots, so that way you don't get too much sagging. And sagging's when you put too much in and it just kind of wants to like sag and fall off. So for coat one, it's not too bad. There we go. So now we'll just let that set up. Like I said, it's a little bit warm in here. I don't know, in 10-15 minutes we can kind of rough it up, and rather than spend too much time on it, just rough it up, and we're going to put our second layer on anywhere that's still low. Alright, so we're set up just enough to start knocking down the high spots. I already did a little bit with this thing. Nickname, I think it's called a cheese grater for obvious reasons, but you can kind of quickly shave off some of the excessively high spots. So anywhere it touches is high, anywhere it hasn't touched is obviously still low. So you can see how it's nice because it turns into like these little shavings rather than just like dust everywhere. So I'm gonna knock off the high spots on the back and do our second coat of Bondo hair. Alright guys, so second fiberglass or Bondo glass is on. I already sanded this bit, so you can see how this edge is actually really taking a nice shape if you look down it. So we're going to do the same with the back. Now I'm sanding it with a 40 grit sandpaper, pretty aggressive, because this is going to get covered with Bondo and everything. I'm just kind of trying to knock it down real quick. We're also just using a DA the whole entire time instead of a longboard. And then the other thing I'm doing is kind of holding a vacuum near it, just to kind of suck up at least some of the dust rather than the dust getting just everywhere. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. I know I have an extra low spot right here, but we're literally like under the car at that point. But if you look at the top, kind of look down this line, You may have seen it in time lapse. You can use like a straight edge or something and kind of see how close or far you are. A little hard to hold it one-handed, but you know, we're looking pretty good. At this point, these spots that didn't get hit are not that low, so we can jump to Bondo. 2 coats of Bondo and we'll be set. All right, so now we're ready for regular Bondo. Just about everybody kind of knows this stuff. You could get this at, you know, like Pep Boys, AutoZone. Shoot, I even think like Lowe's and Home Depot and stores like that have like a little auto section. You can get this stuff. So, yeah, let's get it mixed up. This has been sitting for a while, so I'm going to kind of knead the tube so that way it doesn't, you know, shoot out just the liquid. Honestly, I might be able to finish it with this coat. We'll see. Alright, so just like the Bondo glass, when this sets up, it's got a tiny bit of tack to it, but you can see it's firm. We're going to cheese grate it ever so slightly. Just to knock off some of those like higher clumps. I put it on pretty smooth, and since our fiberglass underneath was pretty smooth, this, you don't really, you don't really need to use a cheese grater. It's just kind of speeding it up for me a tiny bit. Alright, so our light cheese grater work is done. We're going to jump back to 40 grit on the DA. This would be really nice to use a long straight sanding board. I'm not that concerned about it. Again, it's a race car. So yeah, we're just gonna DA it. We're not gonna go crazy with 40 because I wanna finish it with this coat. And if you go too deep, the 40 scratches are gonna be a pain to, you know, kind of sand out and paint over. Alright, so here we are under time lapse. I went from 40 to 80 grit to 180 grit to 320. So any of this Bondo, or if I broke through anywhere to the fiberglass, is, you obviously can't see it, but it's smooth, like really smooth. So at this point, depending on how crazy you want to get, you could prime it all. I'm just going to jump right to painting it, because again, black, it's a race car. A lot of it's under the car. If you can't tell by now, I'm definitely taking some liberties on corner cuts, if you will. So, but yeah, it'll still look plenty good. Meet the 50-50 rule. If you're not aware of the 50-50 rule in racing, if it looks good from 50 feet away at 50 miles an hour, it's good. So, yeah, this will do that for sure. So yeah, let's paint it, and actually that's about it. I'm gonna rattle can it, just in case anybody's wondering. It's not worth getting an actual, like, you know, 2-part base clear setup on this thing. So yeah, we're just gonna rattle can it and be done. Alright guys, so I just did the second coat. And there you go. Rocker panel is fixed. You know, at this point, I gotta move on to the door. If you wanna watch me make a carbon fiber door, hit that subscribe button. But anyways, I hope you learned something. Again, this is kind of race car body work. Don't expect to kind of do what I did and get a job at the local body shop. But, you know, you're racing your car and you kind of need to, you know, dress it up to make it look good. There you go. So as always, guys, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.